Think about the last pair of boots you genuinely loved, the ones that felt right from the first wearing. You probably still remember the brand. You probably still feel something when you think about them. Now think about the last pair that fell apart, the sole that separated, the leather that cracked, the zip that gave out after one winter. Chances are, both pairs cost roughly the same amount. That is not a coincidence. Today, I investigated 10 women's boot brands. 7 build boots with an expiry date they will never tell you about. Only 3 build boots that genuinely last a lifetime. Number 7. Steve Madden. Let's start with a brand you probably own, or used to own, or bought for your daughter last birthday, because it looked like quality at a reasonable price. Steve Madden launched in 1990 from Queens, New York. The early boots were sharp and genuinely well received. Women bought them and kept buying them. The brand grew into a $2 billion public company. Here is what that growth meant for the boot in your hand. Steve Madden today manufactures almost entirely in China. The mid-range boot line uses bonded leather across a significant portion of the lineup. Bonded leather is not leather. It is shredded leather fibers pressed together with polyurethane. It looks like leather at the point of sale. Footwear repair specialists are consistent about what happens next. Bonded leather peels within 6 to 18 months, and it cannot be resoled because the upper disintegrates before the sole wears out. There is nothing a cobbler can do with it. Once it starts to go, the boot is finished. The outsoles are cemented, glued, not stitched. That is a deliberate construction choice. A stitched sole can be replaced. A glued sole cannot. When it separates, which it will, you are not looking at a repair. You are looking at a replacement. Think about who buys Steve Madden specifically. Women in their 40s who are done buying cheap and are genuinely trying to invest in their wardrobe. Women who looked at the $180 price tag and thought, this is not a fast fashion price, so the construction must be different. The price said quality. The bonded leather upper and glued sole said otherwise. Verdict: a boot built to need replacing, not repairing. Number 6. Nine West. Nine West has been part of your life for a long time. Maybe your mother wore it. Maybe you bought your first real pair of boots with your first real paycheck, and Nine West was the name on the box. That memory is completely real. The boot being made under that name today is a different product. Nine West filed for bankruptcy in 2018. The brand name was sold separately from the manufacturing operations. What you are buying when you buy Nine West today is a licensed label applied to boots designed and produced by a third party with no continuity to the original construction standards. The current boot line uses cemented soles throughout. Cemented construction means the outsole is glued, not stitched. Cobbler forums and footwear repair specialists are unanimous. Cemented soles cannot be resoled. Once the sole separates, the boot is done. There is no repairing it. There is no sending it to a cobbler and getting it back good as new. The construction method makes that impossible. Have you ever held a boot and thought it felt slightly hollow, slightly light for its price? That feeling is the construction telling you something the label will not. Verdict: the original boot is gone. What is left cannot be repaired when it fails. If you have ever had a pair of boots fall apart before you were done with them, subscribe, because what I am about to show you is going to change how you look at every boot you buy from here on. Number 5. UGG. I want to be careful here, because I know how many of you have a genuine attachment to UGG. The shearling-lined boots that felt like the brand actually thought about your comfort on a cold morning. That experience was real. Here is the construction reality. The classic UGG boot is built on a molded EVA sole that is bonded directly to the upper. There is no welt. There is no stitch line. The sole and the upper are two pieces that have been glued together and set. When the sole compresses, and it will typically within 2 to 3 years of regular wear, or when the bond starts to fail at the edges, a cobbler cannot resolve it. The construction does not allow for it. The sheepskin lining, the material that made UGG feel worth it, compresses permanently over time. It does not recover. After 18 to 24 months of regular wear, The lining that originally cushioned your foot has flattened to a fraction of its original depth. What you are left with is a boot with a failing sole bond and a compressed liner, walking on a foundation that cannot be restored. Think about who this hits hardest. Women who bought UGG specifically because the shearling lining felt like a sign of quality. Women who paid $200 and expected 10 years. Women who are replacing a pair right now and assuming they just wore them too much, when the real answer is that the construction was never designed to go the distance they needed. Verdict: genuine comfort for the first 2 years. No path to repair after that. Number 4, Michael Kors. Michael Kors sits in a specific position in the market. The price says premium. The stores say luxury. The bag hanging in the window says someone here cares about quality. Then you look at the boot construction. Across the entry and mid-range line, a significant portion of the uppers are synthetic leather. The brand labels this material with language like leather look upper or signature MK material. Synthetic uppers cannot be conditioned. They cannot breathe the way leather does, and footwear specialists are consistent about the timeline. Synthetic uppers begin cracking at the flex points, the toe box, the ankle crease, within 18 to 24 months of regular wear. Once that cracking starts, no treatment reverses it. The outsoles are cemented. No welt, no stitch line, no resoling path. A boot at $200 to $400 with a synthetic upper and a glued sole is, from a construction standpoint, built to the same standard as a boot that costs a quarter of the price. The materials that determine longevity, the upper and the sole attachment, are not premium. Have you ever paid more for a boot, specifically because you assumed the higher price meant the construction was different? That assumption is exactly what this market is built on. Verdict: premium price, entry-level construction underneath it. Number 3, Sam Edelman. Sam Edelman is the brand recommended to you when you say you want something stylish but not too expensive. It sits at $80 to $150. The styles are current. The stores are everywhere. The construction is designed for one season of use. The brand uses synthetic materials throughout most of the line. Outsoles are cemented across the board. Footwear repair professionals consistently report the same finding. Sam Edelman boots are not constructed in a way that allows meaningful repair. The sole cannot be replaced. The synthetic upper cannot be reconditioned. When something fails, and typically something fails within the first or second winter, the only option is a new pair. There is nothing wrong with a boot designed for a single season if that is what it is sold as. The problem is that it is not sold as that. It is sold as a wardrobe staple, as something that will work year after year. The construction does not support that promise. Subscribe right now. 3 more brands and then the 3 worth actually buying. Verdict: styled for years, built for one. Number 2, Coach. Coach footwear carries the weight of a brand known for durable leather goods. The association with quality is strong, and it runs deep for a lot of women in their 40s and 50s who watched that reputation get built over decades. The boots being sold under that name today are built differently. Entry and mid-range models use corrected grain leather, genuine leather that has been sanded and coated to remove the natural surface variations. That coating changes how the leather behaves over time. Full-grain leather develops a patina. It improves with wear, it can be conditioned, it responds to care. Corrected grain leather has a sealed surface that cannot absorb conditioner properly. Footwear specialists describe the long-term result consistently. It cracks, usually starting at the flex points, and once it cracks, the cracking spreads. At $250 to $450, the construction should include a welted sole, stitched, not glued, and a resoling path. Most Coach boots in that range do not have either. You are paying for a price point that implies a construction standard. The sole attachment and the leather grade do not meet it. Think about who reaches for Coach specifically. Women who have moved past the discount brands because they believe they are now spending on something that will actually last. Women who associate the name with the kind of leather goods that outlive their owners. The gap between what that name communicates and what the current construction delivers is the specific hurt of this brand. Verdict: the leather reputation was earned. The current leather does not live up to it. Number 1, Aldo. Aldo tops this list because it represents the endpoint of a construction race to the bottom that is mostly hidden behind trend-forward styling and a price that feels like it is just below the danger zone. Aldo boots retail between $80 and $200. Construction uses bonded leather, synthetic leather, and genuine leather depending on the model, and the product descriptions do not always make the distinction visible. Outsoles are cemented across the line. No official repair program, no resoling support. Footwear repair professionals say the same thing about Aldo boots that they say about Steve Madden. By the time something fails, there is usually nothing left to save. Bonded leather does not just look worse over time, it structurally fails. The polyurethane binding breaks down, the fibers separate, and the surface peels in strips that cannot be reversed by any treatment. It is not a cosmetic problem. It is a material that was never going to hold together past a certain number of hours of wear. Have you ever bought a pair of boots and felt a quiet suspicion, even at the register, that this was probably not going to last? And bought them anyway? Because everything at this price seemed to be built the same way? That feeling was accurate. The construction difference between an $80 Aldo boot and a $180 Aldo boot is primarily the styling. The material category is often the same. Verdict: bonded leather and a glued sole. The styling changes each season. The construction does not. Those are 7 brands with a construction problem they will not tell you about. The problem is the same across all 7. Materials that cannot be maintained, and sole attachment methods that cannot be repaired. Here are the 3 that are built differently. Before the reveal, here's the one thing to look for in any boot. Turn it over. Look at where the sole meets the upper. If there is a visible stitch line running around the edge of the sole, a raised strip of material that the stitching passes through, that boot can be resoled. A cobbler can remove the old sole and attach a new one, multiple times over decades. That construction is called welted. If the transition from upper to sole is smooth and seamless, the sole is glued. No stitch line, no welt, no path to repair. The 3 brands below are all Goodyear welted. Every brand on the avoid list is not. Number 3, Blundstone. Blundstone has been making boots in Tasmania since 1870. The brand is privately held. It has never been absorbed into a portfolio, and it has never had a parent company pushing it toward cheaper materials to protect a quarterly number. The 500 and 550 series use a direct-injected TPU outsole. TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane, is a material known for resisting compression and breakdown far longer than the EVA foam used in most mass-market boot soles. Footwear testing specialists consistently place TPU outsoles at the high end for durability at this price point. Independent wear tests report 8 to 12 years of regular use before the upper shows serious fatigue. The leather is genuine, treated for water resistance, and designed to be conditioned and maintained. It ages. It does not peel. The Blundstone is not fully resolable in the way a Goodyear welted boot is. But the construction is robust enough that most owners reach the 10-year mark before that becomes a question. At $200 to $220, the cost works out to roughly $20 a year over a decade. Compare that to a $130 boot you replace every 2 seasons. The numbers are not close. These are not fashion boots. No pointed toe, no heel. What they are is a boot that pulls on in 10 seconds, holds up in rain and cold, and asks for nothing except conditioner twice a year. Verdict: honest construction, honest materials. Lasts a decade without drama. Number 2. Thursday Boot Company. Thursday Boot Company was founded in 2014 by 2 people who kept running into the same problem: boots with real construction cost a fortune, and everything affordable was built to fall apart. Their solution was to go direct to consumer, cut out the retail markup, and put that money into materials instead. The women's Captain boot retails at $199. It is Goodyear welted. That means the sole is stitched to the upper through a welt, not glued. Any cobbler in America can resole it. The upper is full grain leather, not corrected grain, not bonded, not synthetic. Full grain. It develops a patina over time. It responds to conditioning. It gets better the longer you wear it. The cork bed midsole is another detail worth noting. Cork compresses to the shape of your specific foot over the first few months of wear and holds that shape. It does not flatten uniformly the way foam does. After the break-in period, and there is a break-in period, about 2 to 3 weeks, the boot fits you in a way that no foam-soled boot ever will. Footwear reviewers who have worn the women's Captain for 3, 4, and 5 years consistently report the same thing. The boot looks better now than it did when they bought it. That is what full-grain leather and a resolable construction does. It compounds in the right direction. At $199 with a Goodyear welt and a full-grain leather upper, Thursday is the answer to the question most women never knew they could ask. What does a boot with real construction actually cost? Less than a Coach boot, built to crack in 2 years. Verdict: Goodyear welted, full-grain leather, $199. The construction argument against every brand on the avoid list at a price that removes every excuse. Number 1. Wolverine 1000 Mile. Wolverine has been making boots in Michigan since 1883. The 1000 Mile boot was introduced in 1914 with a specific promise built into the name, a boot that would last 1,000 miles of hard use. That boot is still being made. The construction has not changed. The leather is Horween Chromexcel, sourced from the Horween Tannery in Chicago, one of the last remaining American tanneries still producing leather to this standard. Chromexcel is a pull-up leather, which means it responds to pressure and conditioning in a visible way. Scuffs rub out with a thumb, conditioner absorbs fully, and the surface develops a deep, complex patina over years of wear that no synthetic material can replicate or fake. The construction is Goodyear welted throughout. The stitch line runs visibly around the boot. Any cobbler can resole it. Owners who have had their pairs for 8, 10, and 13 years report sending them in for a new sole and getting back a boot that is structurally as sound as the day they bought it. One owner reviewed their pair after 13 years and said they had just sent it out for its second resoling. The upper was still holding. The leather had only improved. The women's 1000 Mile retails between $300 and $380 depending on the model. That is a real number, and it deserves to be treated as one. Divided across 15 years of use with 1 or 2 Resoles at roughly $100 each, the annual cost lands below $30. The Steve Madden boot at $180 that needs replacing every 18 months costs more than $100 a year. The math is not close. Think about who this boot is actually for. Women who have replaced the same pair of boots 4 or 5 times and are tired of doing it. Women who want to make one decision and stop thinking about it for a decade. Women who are past the point of paying for the look of quality and are ready to pay for the construction of it. Verdict: Horween leather, Goodyear welt. Made in America since 1914. A boot you buy once and resole twice. 10 brands, 7 with construction that fails on a schedule. 3 built to outlast the schedule entirely. The pattern across all 7 is the same. Bonded leather or synthetic uppers that cannot be conditioned or repaired. Cemented soles that cannot be replaced. No resoling path. No material disclosure in plain language. A boot that looks complete on the shelf and begins failing within 2 winters. The 3 Worth It brands all publish what they use. All of them support repair. All of them are built from materials that respond to care rather than degrade despite it. The construction method in each case is verifiable. You can look it up, you can feel it. You can turn the boot over and see the stitch line. Go do that right now. Go to your boot rack, pull out the pair you wear most, and turn it over. Look for the stitch line. If it is there, that boot has a future. If it is smooth and seamless, it has an expiry date. Now you know how to find it. If this changed how you look at the boots in your wardrobe, share it with one woman who deserves to know.